When you see a jumbo jet slicing through the clouds, you're probably thinking about where it's going, right? But have you ever stopped to wonder what happens when it can't fly anymore? Where do these absolute titans of the sky actually go to retire? Well, the answer isn't some simple scrapyard. It's this surprisingly complex and, honestly, vital industry. Today, we're diving into the hidden world of aircraft decommissioning.
Okay, so picture this. Endless rows of massive aircraft just sitting there, silent under the blazing desert sun. We're talking places like Marana, Arizona, or Tarbes in France. Their paint is faded, their engines are quiet. It really feels like you're standing in a final resting place for these incredible machines.
But here's the thing, this isn't an ending at all. In fact, for these planes, it's the beginning of a brand new, critical mission. Each one of these retired jets is about to be reborn, piece by meticulous piece. So how on earth does a 400-ton aircraft get a second life?
And the scale of this whole thing is it's mind-boggling. We are not talking about a few dozen planes here and there. Over the next 2 decades, more than 15,000 commercial aircraft are set to be retired. Just let that number sink in. That's this massive wave of materials and technology, sure, but it's also a huge economic opportunity that's basically hiding in plain sight.
So let's get into the process itself, because this is not just a bunch of guys with wrenches. Decommissioning an aircraft is a highly skilled, incredibly meticulous teardown that transforms a flying machine back into its core components.
First off, why is a plane even retired in the first place? Well, after years of amazing service, it just becomes uneconomical to keep it in the air. Maintenance costs start to creep up, older designs just can't compete with the newer, super fuel-efficient models, and of course, stricter emission standards make them obsolete. It's a purely practical business decision. Once that decision is made, the aircraft takes one last journey. It's called a ferry flight, often with just a minimal crew, to one of these specialized storage and teardown facilities. It's the very final entry in a logbook that's just filled with millions and millions of miles. And I gotta make this clear, this is not some back alley chop shop. Before a single bolt gets turned, everything is documented. The entire process is governed by strict global aviation authorities like the FAA in America and Europe's EASA, and it all has to meet some really tough environmental standards. Precision is everything, absolutely everything. The whole thing follows this very meticulous sequence. After that final flight, every single part gets documented. Then comes the most valuable stage, harvesting all the usable components. And only after that are the remaining materials carefully segregated for recycling. Now, a process this complex requires a huge number of people. It's actually created this hidden but thriving global hub for highly skilled jobs, the kind of career path a lot of people don't even know exists. Let's take a look at the economy this thing has built. This number is just incredible. Get this, just one retired jet can sustain between 50 and 100 skilled jobs. We're talking about technicians, logisticians, environmental specialists. Now multiply that by those 15,000 planes that are due for retirement. Suddenly you're looking at a massive and growing source of employment. At the very heart of this job market is something called USM, which stands for Used Serviceable Material. Now these aren't just used parts, no way. They are certified, rigorously tested components harvested from retired jets that are then put back into service, helping to keep active airline fleets flying safely and a lot more affordably. So what kind of skills are we talking about here? It's a fascinating mix. Of course, traditional aviation maintenance skills are absolutely essential, but so are environmental certifications and safety training for handling hazardous materials, and even specialized programs in circular economy logistics. It really is a career path for the future. And this isn't the Wild West, To ensure safety and trust all across the globe, the industry actually created its own governing body, the Aircraft Fleet Recycling Association, or AFRA. It sets the global best practices and training standards to make sure this work gets done safely and sustainably, no matter where in the world it's happening. All right, so we've taken the plane apart and we've talked about the people who do it, but where does everything actually go? This is where we get to see the circular economy in full flight, literally. The possibilities here are just incredible. That high-grade metal from the fuselage, it can be re-smelted for new aircraft or even parts for electric cars. Old cabin interiors, they become designer furniture. Key engine components get certified and put right back into service on another plane. Sometimes, even entire sections of a plane might end up in a museum, inspiring the next generation of engineers. This entire industry isn't just about dealing with the past. It's really about building a more sustainable future for aviation. It's becoming a cornerstone of the industry's response to big challenges like climate change and resource scarcity. And the innovation here is just accelerating. We're seeing brand new ways to recycle modern composite materials, AI that can track every single component, and even these things called digital twins, which are perfect virtual copies of a part that track its entire history and health. The industry is thinking so far ahead that recycling requirements are now being written directly into the contracts for brand new planes. So, for the thousands of people working in this field, it is really more than just a paycheck. It's a mission. They are actively extending the life and the legacy of aviation, making it cleaner and more efficient for all of us in the future.
And I think this quote from the source article by Rob Kennedy just perfectly captures the spirit of it all. Even in retirement, airplanes keep working as parts, as materials, and as inspiration. They keep contributing, even when they're no longer flying. It really makes you think, doesn't it? If we can find this much value and this much purpose in a retired airplane, what other things in our world that we consider waste are actually just sitting there waiting for their own new mission to begin?